Hello and welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Temitope Fagbemi. Last week we got a very nice surprise here at Channels Television when the Ambassador at Large and World Chairman of the International Human Rights Commission paid us a visit. Dr. Mohammed Khan was invited to Nigeria by the Osun State Governor, Mr. Rauf Aregbesola, and on his way back he breezed into our station where he and his Foreign Affairs Minister, Caroline Usikpedu, shared the objectives of the Commission with us. They also spoke on some of the burning issues trending here in Nigeria. Now, what exactly does the International Human Rights Commission stand for?
International Human Rights Commission is all about the rights of a peoples. That rights which are still pending to provide them in the many countries. That rights, the word mechanism is failed to provide them. It is the responsibility, and responsibility has taken by the International Human Rights Commission and its management to work out with the international actors, international partners, the member states of the United Nations, so that the effective mechanism should come out without the conflicts which is the many countries even have on the UN rostrum also. We have to make the human-friendly organization and government-friendly organization. And I appreciate the civil society, I appreciate the non-governmental organization and their tremendous works in the different countries for the welfare of humanity, for the welfare of a human being, and for the respect of a human rights and respect of a human dignity. But even though it's my opinion, the governments are responsible. Governments are responsible of every state, every country to provide the human rights and basic human rights to the peoples of their own nation and states. So we have this responsibility to activate the mechanism within the countries and within the states so that the states and governments can fulfill the requirement of the international obligation, whatever they have the signatories in the United Nations, in the African Union, in the League of Arab States, in the Organization of Islamic Conference, in the European Union, and many other international organizations. Whether it's a Caribbean Union of the countries, or whether it is the American states of the Organization of the States. So we are working with everyone to bring an effective mechanism, and it is not a mechanism parallel to the governments. It is the governments, respective governments, who have to uphold the mechanism. Unfortunately, from the adoption of the first declaration of the human rights, which is adopted by the 10 December 1948 by the United Nations, it's a first universal declaration that every country has a sign on this declaration. But that declaration is a just declaration. We never even adopted the mechanism. Even United Nations itself has adopted, on the pressure of the International Human Rights Commission in 1992, the UN Commission for Human Rights. So the founder of the organization, who uphold the Universal Declaration from the last 60 years, they even never adopted the own mechanism, and they adopted the mechanism on the push of the International Human Rights Commission, although many African countries don't know about the International Human Rights Commission, what International Human Rights Commission do, and for what International Human Rights Commission is formed. The International Human Rights Commission obligation is this, that we have to assist the governments to make the mechanism. We are assisting the many partners and actors to have a mechanism of peace, a humanitarian network, and to provide the facilities and assistance and full-fledged support to that governments and nations, those who are living under the poverty level. So, focusing in all of that, our main objective is to educate every child on this earth.
Well, like you said, the African government and even the African people, they're not really aware of the work of the International Human Rights Commission. They're more familiar with the United Nations Human Rights Commission. Are you in partnership with the United Nations?
Well, I'm saying in very clear manners that the United Nations organization, having the international law, which has been passed in 1963 at Vienna as which called the Vienna Treaty for organization. And according to the Vienna Treaty of the organization, when two countries, minimum two countries, adhere the charter of any organization, that becomes the intergovernmental organization.
So how many countries now?
6 countries adhere the full charter, 22 having a diplomatic relation, and hopefully the Nigeria is going to be having a full diplomatic relation very, very soon.
Nigeria's status right now?
The Nigeria status right now in our organization is an observer. We are going to be, we are in discussion with them because we have a mechanism, and a mechanism of negotiation, mechanism of working relationship, mechanism of diplomatic relation, mechanism of organizational structure. So we are working with the Nigerian government, and I am very much thankful to the President Goodwill Jonathan, who have the will to uphold the international instrument. Although Nigeria have at this moment, as I come on the invitation of the Honorable Governor of the state of Osan, I had communicated to him also to communicate to the Honorable President that International Human Rights Commission can play a very vital role. Because the Nigeria, we consider Nigeria is a leader of the African nations. And if the Nigeria, what the Nigeria is facing a crisis, whether it's an unemployment, whether it is a poverty, whether it is an energy crisis, or whether it's a political, or whether it's in education sector, we can assist them. We can assist them to build a mechanism of to address the problems. We want the Nigeria must have the independent, free, powerful judiciary who can provide the justice then and there, because without the justice, no system, no democracy even can prevail. So there are problems, and we are aware of it, and we want to stand with the peoples of Nigeria, with the leadership of Nigeria, to be aware that they need assistance and help of the international world, but they don't want. I'm saying that the leadership and peoples of Nigeria don't want to get blackmailed. So the International Human Rights Commission is standing on that vision, on that point, that we are not going to blackmail at any cost, because it's against our principle and it's against the ethics what the International Human Rights Commission has set for. So I hope these all problems will be resolved. I offered the governor that if he communicate to the Honorable President that the Osan state, Mr. Governor Rauf.
Oh, okay.
So because he invited me to visit the Osan state to look at what he is doing, and I really appreciate what he is taking the step in the field of an education for the development. Obviously, he don't have, and no government have such kind of unseen powers